What if I told you that humanity has already made contact with extraterrestrials and they revealed the true nature of God and the secret of existence? I want you to imagine a world that's beyond our everyday reality. A world where time and space are just illusions. A world where extraterrestrials communicate not through radios or lasers, but through the power of the mind. See, what if extraterrestrials, aliens, aren't what you think? What we're about to uncover ties together and reveals the truth about aliens, occult rituals, secret societies, hidden dimensions, the very nature of existence, the truth about what you are, and the truth about God. Now, I'll be honest with you, this is challenging information. It challenges everything that you know about every aspect of existence. But if you can begin to understand the information in this video, your entire view of your life and reality will change forever. So, are you up for the challenge? Now, I know that there's a lot of skeptics out there when it comes to these kinds of topics, so as we explore them, we'll examine them with logic and reason. See, I'm highly skeptical myself, so I'm going to explain everything as we go along. We're about to delve into some of the most controversial, mysterious, and perhaps the most profound information that humanity has ever encountered. Get ready, because what you're about to hear will change everything you thought that you knew about yourself and the universe. My name is Morgue, and I grew up strictly religious. Now, since leaving Christianity, I've dedicated my life to finding the truth of existence, and I've spent years dedicated to studying philosophy, the esoteric, and hidden information. What I've found is incredible, and I believe the world needs to know this information. Today, we're diving deep into the Law of One. Now, the Law of One is a message to humanity that purportedly comes from an otherworldly entity which made contact in the early 1980s. This entity that made contact with humanity calls itself Ra. In fact, the Law of One is also known as the Ra material. Now, you might be wondering if Ra has any connection to the Egyptian deity of the same name. What if humanity has completely misunderstood what aliens are, just like they've misunderstood the concept of the divine and God? What if the line between alien and the divine wasn't so clear? See, contact with this entity wasn't made in some secret government facility with advanced technology. It was made by a research team known as LL Research, who employed techniques of the mind used by secret societies. The LL Research team consisted of 3 members, Don Elkins, Carla Ruckert, and Jim McCarty. Channeling of the entity Ra took place over a period of 3 years, and the information gathered from these channeling sessions was compiled into 4 books known collectively as the Law of One. Now, this story is about to get intense. Are you ready? To understand how contact was made, we need to explore a world that's been hidden in plain sight, the realm of secret societies and the occult. Secret societies, like the original Order of the Golden Dawn, perform occult rituals designed to invoke angels, gods, and demons, and to make contact with higher intelligences through the power of the mind. But think about this. The original Order of the Golden Dawn was formed in 1888, but people didn't begin to use the word alien to refer to beings not of this world until the 1920s. So what if these angels, gods, and demons are actually what people today would call aliens? Now, to understand this mind-blowing information we're about to uncover, we need to step away from thinking of aliens as little green men in spaceships. Instead, we need to turn our attention to interdimensional beings of pure consciousness, transcending our physical reality. Now, of course, physical aliens on other planets, they exist, but imagine a species that has evolved even higher to a point where they no longer need a physical body or even exist in the material realm. These are higher beings of pure thought, pure mind, and have transcended the physical altogether and exist in another dimension. Since they aren't physical and don't exist in the physical domain, contact with them isn't made through radio or laser transmissions, but through the mind. The infamous occultist Aleister Crowley used to be a member of the Order of the Golden Dawn before he formed his own secret society. He said, "My observation of the universe convinces me that there are beings of intelligence and power of a far higher quality than anything that can conceive of as human, that they are not necessarily based on the cerebral and nervous structures that we know, and that the one and only chance for mankind to advance as a whole is for individuals to make contact with such beings. In 1904, Crowley claimed to have made contact with one of these otherworldly beings. Now, this being called itself Iwas, and by communicating with Iwas over a period of 3 days, Crowley wrote a book called The Book of the Law. Now, why is any of this important to understand? Because what we're examining today, contact with the interdimensional entity called Ra, and its message called the Law of One, didn't happen through any kind of physical abduction or in some top secret government facility. It happened through the efforts of the LL research team that employed age-old methods used by these societies, rituals and channeling. But hold on just a minute. Secret societies, rituals, interdimensional entities, is this sounding crazy? Is it a hoax? Well, remember, I'm going to examine all of this with logic and reason. We're going to answer all these questions, but stick with me because this story is incredible. First contact with Ra was made January 15th, 1981. That morning, the research team performed a ritual created by the Order of the Golden Dawn, known as the Lesser Banishing Ritual of the Pentagram. Now, what do rituals have to do with anything? Well, rituals can be seen as an advanced form of psychology, where they utilize symbolism and repetition, and this put the team in the right state of mind to avoid any negative or distracting thoughts. The rhythmic recitation, the conscious movements, the mental visualizations, these were all methods used to tap into the unconscious mind, preparing them for the contact that they were about to make. After the ritual, Carla lay down in a comfortable position. As she closed her eyes and focused on her breathing, Jim placed 3 microphones below her chin to capture every word that would flow through Carla. 3 microphones were used so that if any of them failed, 2 others would continue recording. Now, as Carla began to relax, Don Elkins, who was a professor of physics and engineering, was ready to ask questions to any entity that might make contact and speak through Carla. As silence fell over the room, Jim McCarty was standing by to write down anything that might happen during the session. Through a process of relaxation, meditation, and intention, Carla entered a deep trance state, mentally reaching out and opened herself up to receive information. She drifted deeper and deeper, making space in her mind for any contact with an entity. And that's exactly when contact was made. Unlike any kind of contact that they've experienced before, this presence was immense and powerful, and yet benevolent. And as it began to speak through Carla, who the entity refers to as the instrument, the entity identified itself as Ra, a humble messenger of the Law of One. Now, what follows is an actual recording of the first contact.
I am Ra. I have not spoken through this instrument. We had to wait until she was precisely tuned. As we send a narrow band vibration, we greet you in the love and in the light of our infinite Creator. We have watched your group. We have been called to your group.
Ra states that it's here to reveal the truth of existence and goes on to explain that this is not a material reality, but a reality of mind, a dreamlike reality, a reality of thought. Ra states, all things, all of life, all of the creation is part of one original thought. You are not part of a material universe. You are part of a thought. You are dancing in a ballroom in which there is no material. You are dancing thoughts. But before going any further, further, Don asks Ra what its purpose is, and Ra explains that it attempted to transmit the Law of One in the past, but that humanity distorted it, and that Ra now feels responsible for removing those distortions. Ra states, "We are old upon your planet and have served with varying degrees of success in transmitting the Law of One, of unity, of singleness to your peoples. However, we then felt the great responsibility of staying in the capacity of removing the distortions and powers that had been given to the Law of One." But what exactly does Ra mean by distortions, and is Ra the god of Egypt with the same name? Well, that's exactly what Don asks next, and what Ra reveals is incredible. Ra replies that it is indeed the Ra of the Egyptians, and that it chose to initiate contact with the civilization of ancient Egypt. They found an appropriate channel and chose to transmit the Law of One to a receptive individual who had the authority to decree it as law. However, Ra reveals that the Law of One was quickly corrupted and distorted by the priests, stripping it of compassion. That the Law of One is a message of unity, and the priests robbed it of its central message. So seeing what happened, Ra broke contact, and myths and religion took over instead of the original message of the Law of One. Ra states, "I am Ra. The identity of the vibration Ra is our identity. We, as a group, or what you would call a social memory complex, made contact with a race of your planetary kind, which you call Egyptians. We spoke to one who heard and understood, and was in a position to decree the Law of One. However, the priests and peoples of that era quickly distorted our message, robbing it of the, shall we say, compassion with which unity is informed by its very nature." But hold on just a minute, because Ra calls itself a group, a social memory complex. What exactly is Ra? See, Ra isn't a single mind, it's a group mind. Imagine a vast, interconnected web of consciousness where individuality still exists, but every thought, every feeling, every memory is shared. A collective consciousness. Ra isn't a single mind or a physical entity. Instead, Ra is a collective, a coalescence of individual consciousnesses merged into one. Imagine it like a choir, where each voice maintains its individual character and quality, but together they create a harmonious melody that couldn't be produced on their own. Ra is similar. It's the unity of many minds. But what exactly is the Law of One? The message that Ra claims is the truth of existence, but was distorted by religion. Well, over the next several years, the research team engaged in long channeling sessions where Ra revealed many shocking things about the nature of reality. Now, I don't have time to begin to describe even a fraction of what was revealed, but I'll be exploring the Law of One in detail on my channel, and it's incredible, so make sure that you're subscribed. But what is the main message of Ra? And is this real, or was it all some kind of hoax? Could it be true? And what if this information actually reveals that you are God? See, I'm going to answer all these questions. This is going to change how you see reality forever, and most shockingly, this story concludes with a standoff with the police and a tragic death. Do you believe that everything in the universe is connected? That there's a deeper, more profound link between us all that we're just beginning to understand? The Law of One at its core emphasizes the fundamental unity of all things, that we are all one, and that separation is an illusion. It says that everything that we perceive as reality, from the smallest atom to the grandest galaxy, is part of a single mind, and that none of this is physical, that it's a system of vibration, frequency, thought. All beings, all consciousnesses are all fragments of the same infinite reality. Ra states, "You are everything, every being, every emotion, every event, every situation. You are unity. You are infinity. You are love light, light love. You are. This is the law of one. But how does this relate to you being God? Well, we'll get there. The answer is coming. The raw material describes a model of spiritual evolution that consists of 7 densities. Now, these aren't physical places. They're states of mind, states of consciousness that every soul evolves through. So in other words, Ra describes 7 levels of consciousness. But get this, they say that humanity is currently in the 3rd density or 3rd level, characterized by self-awareness. The raw material talks about reincarnation as a mechanism for spiritual evolution. In other words, with each lifetime, a soul learns lessons, gains spiritual wisdom, and progresses through the different levels or densities of consciousness. Ra states that humanity is currently in a time of transition, shifting from the 3rd density to the 4th, marked by an increased awareness of love, unity, and the interconnectedness of all things. According to Ra, this transition offers humanity a unique opportunity to accelerate its spiritual evolution, urging us towards love and unity and the recognition of the divine within. In other words, instead of simply being self-aware, humanity is transitioning to a new consciousness, which is an awareness of our interconnectedness. Ra states, "We are all one. When one is harmed, all are harmed. When one is helped, all are healed." But what if there was a dark side to this story? See, the law of one is not just a journey of light and love, but also a journey that unveils the shadows that lurk within the cosmos. Among these shadows, Ra describes the existence of negative entities. Negative entities, as described by Ra, are minds or consciousnesses that have chosen the path of selfishness. This path, while it can lead to spiritual progression, is steeped in separation instead of unity. It's characterized by control, manipulation, and the accumulation of power, seeing others as pawns instead of part of an interconnected unity. Now, these entities seek to sway and manipulate and to deter from the path of unity. Now, while the researchers were aware of these entities and took great care to protect themselves, there were occasions when their sessions were interrupted by these negative entities. But despite this, the group pushed on, believing in the importance of their mission, yet they had no idea that, possibly because of these entities, a certain sequence of events had been set in motion, a chain of cause and effect that would lead to an outcome more tragic than they could have ever imagined. Now, we'll come to that, but first, we need to dive deeper into this incredible information that can hold the power to transform our understanding of existence itself and ultimately reveals that you are God. Now, there are 3 major points to keep in mind. Ra states that all existence is part of a one mind, which is why it's called the law of one. Also, that all existence is light or thought, which is a product of the one mind. And finally, that the material world is an illusion, a kind of shared dream. Ra says they shared this information with the Egyptians, but that it was ultimately distorted and the truth was lost. Or was it? See, this knowledge was actually discovered by individuals throughout history dedicated to exploring secrets locked within the mind and states of consciousness. Take the ancient Gnostics, for example. Gnosticism was a secret version of Christianity that claimed to hold hidden knowledge reserved for only those that could understand it. Like Ra, the Gnostics claimed that all reality emanated from a single mind that they called the One. And like Ra, the Gnostics claimed that the thoughts of this mind was pure light, they called the pleroma, and that the material world was an illusion. One of their books, called The Secret Book of John, says, "The One rules all. Nothing has authority over it. It is uncontaminated, pure light. No eye can bear to look. It is not right to think of it as a god or as like God. It is more than just God. Nothing is above it. Nothing rules it, since everything exists within it. The One is infinite light." The Gnostics believed that every single one of us are sparks of this divine mind of light, and that our goal on Earth, in this material world of illusion, is to remember that we are the divine light of the One experiencing itself. Similarly, the Kabbalah, a mystical Jewish tradition, speaks of Ein Sof, which means the endless one, which is an eternal divine mind out of which emanates all existence. The essence of Ein Sof, the endless one, is known as Ein Sof Or, which translates to the infinite light. In Kabbalistic thought, the Ein Sof Or infinite light, represents the pure divine energy that existed before the creation of the universe. It's the boundless essence of the One, the source of all creation and the underlying fabric of existence. This infinite light permeates everything and is everything and generates the illusion of a material world. And there are so many systems of thought that say the same thing or similar things, like the Pythagoreans, who believed that this is a mathematical reality that all emanated from a single point of unity, and the Neoplatonists, who also believed that all existence was an emanation from a single mind called the One. Ancient hidden knowledge, many secret societies, and mystical traditions say that reality is a single mind experiencing its own dream world, which is exactly what Ra describes. But this can't be true. This is all just mystical nonsense, right? Well, according to quantum physics and some of the most intelligent scientists in history, Ra is right. Now, we need to explore the consequences stated earlier about these negative entities, but first, let's take a look at this rationally and logically. Quantum mechanics shows us that matter doesn't behave like matter at all. In fact, it destroys the idea that reality is material. Through quantum superposition, we know that reality is based on waves, frequencies, and behaves like mind. And what do you think that the founder of quantum physics, Max Planck, believed? Due to his lifetime of scientific research, he came to the conclusion that all matter was an illusion generated by a single mind. Sound familiar? Max Planck said, "As a man who has devoted his whole life to the most clear-headed science, to the study of matter, I can tell you as a result of my research about the atoms this much. There is no matter as such. All matter originates and exists only by virtue of a force which brings the particles of an atom to vibration and holds this most minute solar system of the atom together. We must assume behind this force the existence of a conscious and intelligent mind. This mind is the matrix of all matter." Now remember, this was not just some random scientist. This was one of the founders of quantum mechanics. And guess what? He wasn't alone. Werner Heisenberg, another famous pioneering physicist in quantum mechanics, also believed that reality wasn't material, but behaved like mind. He said, "The smallest units of matter are not physical objects in the ordinary sense. They are forms, ideas. Atoms are not things." Erwin Schrödinger was yet another pioneering physicist who developed the Schrödinger equation, which is arguably one of the most important equations in all of quantum physics. Schrödinger also believed that this was not a material reality, but a mental reality. Schrödinger said, "We do not belong to this material world that science constructs for us. We are not in it. We are outside. We are only spectators. The reason why we believe that we're in it, that we belong to the picture, is that our bodies are in the picture. Our bodies belong to it. Not only my own body, but those of my friends, also of my dog and cat and horse, and of all the other people and animals. And this is my only means of communicating with them." He also said, "Consciousness cannot be accounted for in physical terms, for consciousness is absolutely fundamental. It cannot be accounted for in terms of anything else." So we have some of the world's most intelligent physicists, pioneers of one of science's most successful theories, quantum mechanics, saying that reality is not physical, that it's mind. But what about the idea that mind is light and that all reality comes from this mental light? That's what the Gnostics, Kabbalists, and Ra all say. Well, let me introduce you to David Bohm, arguably one of the most significant physicists in the 20th century. What did David Bohm believe? Bohm believed that all matter, everything in the universe, was generated by light. He believed that we exist within an ocean of light and that matter is just transformed light, light that's been slowly slowed down and frozen, so to speak. He said, matter is condensed or frozen light. When we come to light, we are coming to the fundamental activity in which existence has its ground. The universe consists of frozen light. Light can carry information about the entire universe. Light, by interactions of different rays, produce particles and all the diverse structures of matter. They are ripples on this vast ocean of light. This ocean of energy could be thought of as an ocean of light. Not only does ancient knowledge support Ra's claim that all reality takes place within a mind of light, but so does modern physics, quantum mechanics, and some of the most intelligent physicists who have ever lived. David Bohm also said, deep down, the consciousness of mankind is one. This is a virtual certainty because even in the vacuum, matter is one. And if we don't see this, it's because we are blinding ourselves to it. So what's going on here? Why does so much of this connect? Well, see, I've made it my mission to uncover hidden knowledge, and I believe that humanity needs to know this information. And I've created a system for understanding it called the Neogenian. So let me explain and show you exactly how this connects to what Ra is saying. This is not a physical reality, it's a mathematical reality of mind or light. This is because frequency is all of these concepts. Frequency is a mathematical concept, frequency is thought, frequency is light. And see, we aren't bodies, we're actually beings of frequencies, eternal minds. You could call them souls, but we call them zetas. So reality is a multiplicity of eternal minds or eternal souls, and these eternal beings, these zetas, which is what we are, all form one mind. We are one mind formed by a multiplicity of minds. We're both one and many at the same time. See, at the beginning of time, we all existed in perfect harmony and perfect unity as the one mind, but we shattered ourselves into diverse viewpoints, individual perspectives, in order to experience reality in multiplicity, in diversity. This shattering of perfect unity is what gave rise to the Big Bang and all of so-called physical reality. But reality isn't actually physical, it's mind, frequency, and thought that's arranging itself into all of its various transformations and patterns. When we, as eternal minds, eternal souls, zetas, link to bodies, it allows us to experience existence as if it were physical, just like Schrödinger says. It's just like when we go to sleep and dream at night and experience a dream world. See, reality isn't just one undifferentiated mind that you get absorbed into. Reality is a multiplicity of minds that form one mind. That means that me, you, all of us, we are the one mind. We are God. At the current stage in our evolution, this is the point where we begin to realize what we are. When we begin to realize that we are all interconnected. This is what Ra calls Earth entering into fourth density. This is the awareness that we're all connected. Ra itself claims to be a social memory complex, which we can understand is a group of souls or zetas that have evolved past the need for physical bodies and are operating as a single network mind. Ra is trying to tell humanity that we're all interconnected and form a single mind, and that when we harm each other, we're actually harming ourselves. This new level of consciousness, which Ra calls fourth density, is what will end all the suffering on Earth, because instead of seeing each other as threats, we'll see each other as co-creators, all on this journey together. But there's a problem. You see, there are many people here on Earth that are selfish and that are obsessed with power and are keeping the world fractured and divided. Now, just like there are people here on Earth that are keeping humanity from reaching the next level of consciousness, Ra claims that there are negative entities or dark beings that are trying to prevent humanity from realizing its interconnected nature. Now, what are these negative entities? Ra states, "The negatively oriented entity will program for maximal separation from and control over all those things and conscious entities which it perceives as being other than the self." In other words, these negative entities desire to control others, rather than seeing others as reflections of the self and interconnected co-creators. Their objective is to maintain an environment of division, fear, and control. Now, over the years, according to Ra, these negative entities began to interfere with the research team's channeling sessions, distorting the messages, introducing confusion, and causing physical distress to Carla. The normally clear and direct responses from Ra started to become confusing and even occasionally contradictory, as if an unseen hand was meddling with the transmission. And Carla was experiencing increased health issues, and Ra explained that these were attempts by negative entities to disrupt the channeling process by destabilizing Carla's physical condition. So given the toll on Carla's health and well-being, the group made the difficult decision to stop the channeling sessions, and the final session took place on March 15th of 1984. They believed that the wisdom already communicated by Ra through the Law of One was extensive enough to study and share with the world. However, it wasn't with Carla, but with Dawn that tragedy would strike. After the final session, in the following months, Dawn's emotional and mental state began to fray. Normally, Dawn was calm, cool, and collected, but the smallest things would set him off, and he fell into a severe depression. He wasn't able to eat solid foods, he couldn't sleep, he lost a third of his body weight, and he was in severe pain. Now, despite seeking help from every source possible, nothing seemed to help, and he saw death quickly approaching. Dawn refused any more hospitalization, but Jim and Carla saw that as the last hope to save his life. And so, even though they hated to do it, they made the decision of involuntary hospitalization. They felt like it was their only option. When the police arrived to serve Dawn the warrant and bring him in, what followed was a 5.5-hour standoff with the police. Dawn thought that his death was imminent and he didn't want his last days to be in a mental hospital. Tear gas was finally used in an attempt to force him out of the house, but rather than submitting, Dawn exited through the back door, where he took his own life with a single shot. The man who had been a beacon of wisdom and emotional strength was gone. What began as an exciting journey of love and light ended with a dark tragedy. But what about the information that they left with the world? The information they risked everything for, and in the case of Dawn, lost everything. Is it real? Is it a hoax? Or is it actually something else entirely? Let me explain. Now, no doubt about it, there is excellent information in the Law of One that lines up with science, philosophy, and the information that I've discovered in my many years studying the nature of reality and hidden information. But there's also some absurdly strange information that's hard to believe, doesn't make sense, and seems contradictory. Now, if the Law of One material is real, that could be explained by negative entities interfering with the transmission. But could it be a hoax? Very possibly. It's possible that the LL research team wanted to help move the world towards unity and believed that people would be more likely to listen to their message if it came from an interdimensional being. Now, this wouldn't be the first time something like this happened. So-called prophets trying to start new religions will claim that they got their message from an angel or from God to make people more likely to believe them. This is also a fairly common tactic used in secret societies, where they'll claim that the message came from ascended masters or occult gods or secret chiefs. If it was a hoax, they certainly were very committed to it. They went through long channeling sessions, recorded everything, which over the course of 3 years totaled 108 sessions. But what if it was something else? We need to consider the possibility that the messages conveyed might be sourced from within the channeler's own mind, as opposed to an actual external entity. In the case of Carla and the Law of One material, could the information she relayed as Ra actually been a manifestation of her own unconscious mind? See, Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung proposed the concept of the collective unconscious, a level of unconscious shared by all humans that contains archetypes and ancestral memories. These archetypes, or universal symbols, could be potentially tapped into by an individual under certain conditions or states of consciousness. In the New Age community, the collective unconscious is often referred to as the Akashic Records. Given this, it's possible that Carla, through the process of channeling, was accessing the deep layers of her unconscious mind, bringing forth complex and archetypal stories woven into the fabric of the collective unconscious. Carla had an extensive background in philosophy and religious studies, so it's possible that since she had absorbed a wealth of spiritual and metaphysical knowledge throughout her life, that this knowledge could have been unconsciously influencing the channeled content, giving birth to these rich cosmological and philosophical ideas that were ultimately presented in the Law of One. Remember Aleister Crowley, who channeled the entity I Was and wrote the Book of the Law? Crowley himself speculated that it could have been his own unconscious mind, though he doubted it. Crowley wrote, "Of course I wrote them, ink on paper, in the material sense, but they're not my words. Unless I was be taken to be no more than my subconscious self, or some part of it. In that case, my conscious self, being ignorant of the truth in the book and hostile to most of the ethics and philosophy of the book, I was is a seriously suppressed part of me." In other words, Crowley is speculating that I Was, the channeled entity, could have been a suppressed part of his mind, though, as I said, he ultimately doubts that's the case. So let's break this down. Where does the Law of One come from? Is it some ancient alien wisdom? Is it all made up? Or is it a manifestation of Carla's own unconscious mind? Well, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. What's important isn't where the information comes from, but what the information is saying. Whether it's a human, an alien, or a god talking, we need to look at the information and use reason and think critically about it. We need to pick it apart, put it back together, and see if it makes sense. That's how we learn, that's how we grow. And the Law of One? Well, it's all about unity, interconnectedness, and evolving our consciousness. It's about the idea that everything and everyone is one, which isn't just some out there alien concept. It's something that's been talked about in spirituality, philosophy, and even in science. What truly matters is how we use what we learn to make the world a better place. There's a lot in the Law of One that I don't agree with, but the Law of One talks about moving to a new state of consciousness, about creating a world that's united, not divided. And that's a message worth listening to. So let's keep questioning, let's keep exploring, and let's remember that it's not about who's talking, it's about what's being said. So let's take what we know about existence and use it to change the world. Because whether we're human, alien, or something in between, it doesn't matter. What matters is that we all have the power to come together to make a difference and create a new beginning. My mission is to bring knowledge to humanity so that the world can reach the next level of consciousness. And we are the new beginning. We are Neogenians. Join us in creating a new world now. Now, you might have one big question, and that is, if reality is one mind, what created that one mind, or how does it exist? And to answer that question, you need to watch my video called What Created God? It has information in it that you need to know, and that will tie all of this together. Also, make sure that you're subscribed because we'll be delving into the Law of One in detail on my channel. There's so much more to this story. Also, if you enjoy my work, consider supporting on Patreon, or if you join at Tier 2 or higher on YouTube by hitting the join button, you get access to weekly members-only videos.